great. Wonderful crowd. Thanks for being here tonight on a beautiful evening here in New York City. I'm Heidi Russell, founder of International Women Artists Salon, and this is one of our series, Salon Lounge at Dixie Place. And it happens on the third Saturday of every month, so hope this will be, if this is your first time, that you can make it semi-regularly, at least through the year. And this is our 5th year going into our 6th year doing it. So thank you to Ellie Coven and the staff here at Dixon for providing this amazing space and platform to be able to do our series. And our bartender over there, Leah, is fabulous. She's been our diehard supporter through the series, so please patron her through the night and tip her well. And it's my pleasure to host tonight. Usually I like to have a guest host. So if any of you ladies out there are interested in hosting, let me know. You get to hear on the stage as well as hosting on our radio show, which, by the way, we do have a weekly radio show which is now converted to a podcast format. And it's weekly. It's called Salon Radio, and it's on podbean.com. Podbean. Salon Radio. So please check us out there. We have over 250 shows from the past 5 years that we're archiving. So stay tuned as we shift to this new platform. You'll be able to dive into the archives as well and hear amazing projects, get inspiration, find resources, find collaborators. So tonight's a tight show because the show downstairs is about the same amount of time as we, so I'm going to try not to be as long-winded as I normally am. So again, welcome, and we have an amazing show tonight, as usual, of amazing women creatives. And it's a little special tonight because 2 of the artists that are being featured are actually right now in Europe. So late night for them. Amy Hoff is on the phone waiting to do a reading from her new memoir, and so she will be on air here shortly. And our visual artist, Amy Hughes, is in the UK, and this is her painting, which we'll talk about a little later. So here we go. And thank you to Kelly Donovan, who is a dancer and choreographer who helped curate the show tonight. So tonight we are exploring one's vastness. That's our theme for the evening, and each artist has their interpretation, and we hope that you'll think about that throughout the show. And we also like to honor an historical figure, a woman creative who might need a little bit of, or a lot of, recognition. Thank you. I'm a visual artist, so once in a while I stumble over my words a little bit. But so we like to give recognition to historical women creatives who haven't received the proper due that they should have. So tonight we are honoring Zora Neale Hurston. She was born in 1891 and passed away in 1960. I hear some people might know of her. It's great. Zora was an American folklorist, anthropologist, and author during the time of the Harlem Renaissance. She was born in Alabama. She spent her early adulthood studying at various universities and collecting folklore from the South, the Caribbean, and Latin America. She published her findings in Mules and Men, and she was a fixture of the Harlem Renaissance, rubbing shoulders with many of the famous writers. In 1937, she published her masterwork of fiction called Their Eyes Were Watching God. Her awards include Anisfield Wolf Book Awards, the Charles MacArthur Award for an outstanding musical, and more. So please check her out on a regular basis and see more of her work. So our first live artist tonight is our film spot, and it's a real pleasure. I just met this artist in person tonight, but recently online. And Katia Martin is a Spanish filmmaker and actress, and she has had films screened at Cannes, the Berlin Film Festival, the Soho Film Festival, and more. And was chosen as one of 12. She was chosen as one of 12 actors for the ABC Diversity Showcase, and she has worked on projects for Rainmaker Films, Killer Films, and the David Lynch Foundation. And she tells us, "I want to tell stories that will move surprise, confuse, and entertain. If the audience is moved in some way, I feel I've done my job. So we'll have to give her a scorecard later. I'm sure you will have done your job with our audience tonight. And the film that we are previewing here in Salon Lounge at Dixon Place is Vandal. So I'll let you experience the film before I say more. And you'll see who is in the, who has helped her with the film project, including her director, Philippe Vara Del Rey, and one of her actors is here also, Ramya Pratt, right? So, I'm going to bring this down and we're going to play.
I've always just really admired your taste, and I think that you do a great job at representing artists who are established, but also representing artists who are more
It's all very shitty lately, like incredibly shitty work. And you know, I know she hates it too, but you know how it is. You fuck someone who knows someone and you're working with on the walls.
That would like fucking someone.
Yeah, me too. But the point is, Allie, you don't have to. She's gonna love your new shit.
Thanks. Got to see her stuff.
Are you doing anything Friday morning? Good. Because I got your meeting with her at 10 a.m.
What?
I'm a sweet girl.
You mean a meeting with Wright? What is it about your work that will make it kind of look twice? I've had several shows this past year and I've been getting good responses. Where? At a gala for my old university upstate and several pop-up shows and community centers through the city. Have you thought about teaching? It's always a very interesting option for aspiring artists. Thank you for coming to the show. Hey, Anna. Alicia. Have you tried the cafes? Some of the local ones are getting very artsy.
Yes, this month we are pretty booked, but let me see if I can. Actually, would you be holding for a moment? Thank you. Hi, I'm back.
perfect. Cups all the way to the area.
Yeah.
Napkins.
I think we're doing our dinner for my.
Are you closing up again today?
What?
Yeah, last to arrive, last to leave. Now go get change. Staff restroom downstairs to the left. This is one of my favorites. You like it? Especially the technique, the precision of the oils, the strokes. It's really beautiful. Just reminds me a lot of myself.
It's getting hard. It's getting very, very hard to find exhilarating raw art.
It's an overexposure of so-called fire. Instagram, Facebook, it's like all over.
Well, you cannot cheat the system like that. I know your name. You don't exist.
I think your paints came.
Thanks.
I'm so glad you're still painting. I hate that bitch.
There's only one person in the art world.
She kind of is the art world. You have to be fucking radical or a superstar or something to her like you. Allie, I don't need you. You're like my hero. Okay, I'll just keep at it. I'm gonna ask my dad what to do. It's all about getting your real works in front of the right people.
This is amazing. Rosa, thank you so much for showing my pieces and giving me a chance. Honestly, thank you.
It's all about you. Thank you. Frank.
What is that word you made? Congratulations. It's really special. So much. Oh, you know what? This reminds me of the novel that happened. You know what I'm talking about? I think it's absolutely fascinating. Have you seen the one at Smith's Gallery? It's brilliant.
No idea how he pulls that off. His work is
It's
Phenomenal,
brilliant.
come on, it fails to impress.
Well, he must do this in like 10 minutes. Break in, paint, vanish.
I mean, it's brilliant.
Doesn't even put his name on it.
Yes, but what's it worth without a name? You know, it could be painted by different people for all we know. It's amateur, pseudo-artistic vandalism. It's like we're back in the 60s again. The Mandela possible.
Well,
You know it's true.
yeah.
You know, fucking someone who knows someone doesn't seem so bad after.
Good decision. It doesn't matter how others judge it. Your work is your work. It's important you sign it and let the world know. Now.
See some of her other work, and it's really top notch. So do follow her work and spread the word. Our next artist and discipline is in literature, and Amy Hoff is actually on the phone right over here. We're going to get ready to bring her into the sound system, hopefully if it works. And she is calling in live from Dublin. And she's going to be reading an excerpt from her new memoir called American Drifter. And it's, as I mentioned, a memoir about living on the American road for over a decade. Wow. So I'm sure there's going to be some amazing stories in the book, and she's going to give us a little sampling. And Amy is a novelist, writer, director, and folklorist who, again, spent over a decade living on the American road. And you can see her website here, officialamyhoff.com. And that's, her last name is spelled Hoff, for those of you who are watching this via YouTube. So let me just get Amy connected here, and we'll hear a little bit from her. Thank you for staying up late in Dublin. And,
You're welcome.
So take it away.
Hi everyone. I'm gonna read just one of the excerpts from the memoir that came out last week. The book is called American Drifter, and as Heidi had said, this is about living on the American road. I've been a drifter basically my entire adult life. One of the reasons I'm in Dublin is because I'm still doing it. I'm just not doing it in the States so much anymore. So I'm going to read an excerpt here. This one might be a little short, so I'll read another one if you want me to, or I can just take questions about what the life was like when I was doing that. So this is the excerpt that I have. It's called The Plains States. Racing thunderstorms rolling through the Plains States. The spatter of raindrops on the car window as the wheat fields are tossed in the wind on either side of the highway. Sometimes you feel like you're the only one out here underneath that heavy gray sky. Lightning purples the clouds. You sing along to the radio anyway. You smoke your cigarette and crush it in the ashtray as you shout along the highway to hell. You hope it's just a storm and not a tornado. In the passenger seat, a plastic bag of Twizzlers, beef jerky, and Doritos or Cheetos, maybe some cheese sticks. It's going to be maybe 7 or 8 hours before you can pull into the motel and stop for the night. Hell, if the storm hits hard, it's going to be longer than that. Some of these prairie storms are intense and will slow you to a crawl way out here where the empty old farmhouses stare at you with relentless dead black eyes. There's no one out here, not for miles, and nobody else dumb enough to be out on the road when the storm breaks. Fortunately, this ain't your first time at the rodeo, and so you're not too worried, used to being alone and used to driving so much that it's more a part of your instinct and nature than walking these days. But there are still moments where you wonder if you're in for it this time. Sometimes in the dark dive bars, sometimes in the big city back alleys, sometimes on the Kansas road where you're not sure if that storm is going to drown you out and everything else in its path. Staying small is a survival skill, noting your place in the universe and the nothingness of it all. There's food in the car, there's still cigarettes, there's still gas to get you from here to there. So you flip a coin in your mind to see if you pull over to the side of the road and let the storm pound against the shell of your car while you wait it out, or if you keep going in hopes of outrunning the deluge. Most of the time, I kept going. So that's the part I have. What would you like to have?
Let us recognize that first. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about, our theme tonight is just exploring one's vastness, and you spent a decade going across the vastness of America. Can you speak to a little bit about that, and maybe how the journey came about, and maybe what you discovered and had you write this book?
Yeah, okay. I actually have been on the road basically since I was old enough to leave, about 18, and I don't think it was intentional at first, but it just sort of spun out that way, and I've never stopped traveling. I'm still on the road today, 2 decades later, basically, just internationally now. And I would say, I guess, in my opinion, when you're talking about the vastness of yourself and of America and of the world, once you get out there and once you've done that, it's really hard to stay in one place, because you just know how big the world is then, and you feel like no matter how much you see, no matter how much you do, there's always something else around the corner. There's always that next place you haven't seen. There's always more. It's kind of that idea that, the more you know, the less you know, I guess. And yeah, I don't know, I've always been a kind of a sucker for adventure. And I actually wrote this book because people were telling me that, first of all, that doing this is pretty rare these days. Apparently it's kind of gotten difficult to do this in the States, and only recently did I realize that people are becoming very nostalgic for the concept of the American road, and it was just my life, so I never realized that it had kind of become a romanticized thing. So that's why I started to write it down, but I've always been a little confused as to why people are interested, because it just seems like, my life to me. So.
Well, fantastic. We really look forward to reading the whole book, and if you're able to stay out a little bit longer on the line, if we have a little bit extra time at the end, we can take some questions
Sure.
from the audience. So hang tight, and we'll go on to the next two artists, and then we'll have a little talk. But thank you so much for sharing an excerpt.
Thank you.
Okay, and our other internationally located artists, because we are International Women Artists Salon, so we have many international artists who are in New York City, living and working here, and it's really important for us to recognize all the different cultures and the different backgrounds and ways of life and thoughts and et cetera. And we're very lucky to be here in New York City to have that microcosm of the world here. And I've certainly been enjoying it over the last 12 years, and I hope that you all are as well while you're here in New York City. Reach out to the various communities and cultures and engage with the artists that are bringing amazing creative spirits from all across the world. And our visual artist tonight is Amy Hughes, and this is the piece that she sent to us. So we encourage you to come up afterwards and take a closer look at it. And it's called Smother. It's a study done in 2017, oil on canvas, and size is a 10 by 10. And she says, my work deals with the human body, typically my own. I painted and depicted my own body after thinking extensively about both my relationship to my body and society's relationship to it. And Amy is born in the UK and a representational painter, and she graduated from a 2-year full-time MFA program at the New York Academy of Art here in New York City. Since graduating, she's continued to exhibit her work in both solo and group shows internationally and in New York, which says here where she now resides. She's back in the UK, but hoping to come back on an artist visa. So International Women Artists Salon does help sponsor artists, so you get that word out there as well. So hopefully she'll be one of our sponsorees and back here in New York in the near future. And her website, AmyV, is in VictorHughes.com. So please check out more of her work. And thank you, Amy. And then finally, for our last artist for this showcase, Zoe Warshaw. She is a dancer, and she is a graduate of UNCSA, Brooklyn-based, and she's worked with choreographers such as Helen Simonu Dance, NTW, Rogue Dancers, DC2, and Kelly Donovan and Dancers. We mentioned Kelly earlier, longtime Salonista and helping us curate, bringing dancers to our showcases. And Zoe has also collaborated with the musical artists Lovesick and Violet Sands. In addition, Zoe founded her own company, Warfields, in 2016. The company's work has premiered at the Southern Vermont Dance Festival and the Theater for the New City. And you can find her email and Instagram here. And please follow her work. And she's going to be presenting a piece called Here to There tonight. feel like we're just getting rolling. Zoe Warsaw and Katya Martin, and right here in my hand, the lovely Amy Hoff. So everybody, we give a round of applause again. We have a couple minutes, I think, before the show. Hello. Downstairs, and I do really well with stage managing, don't I? Anyways, step up a little bit. You've got the thing on your face.
Oh,
there you go. I was like, you have an arrow on your face. Does anybody have a question that they'd like to ask the artist? Don't forget Amy from Dublin is on my right hand here. Don't be shy.
I wanted to. I'm sorry, what was your name?
Zoe.
Zoe. I'm just wondering what that piece was called and did you choreograph it?
I did. It's called Here to There, and it was interesting when I was asked to be a part of this a month ago. I made this huge solo. I made this huge solo based on vastness, and then about a week before today, I saw the space, and I was like, oh, okay. So it kind of it altered a little bit, but I kind of it changed for the better because I had kind of this order that I had to keep the movement in, but also try to expand beyond it. So it kind of informed my vastness a little bit.
Nice.
So it was fun, but yeah, that's good.
Any other questions before I ask one?
I owe it.
Oh, again. Amy.
I actually had a question for Amy. You said, I was thinking maybe not in the room, that people romanticize drifters, but I wondered what your reason was for living the life that you're living now.
You hear that, Amy?
Yes, I did. What my reason was for continuing to live like this.
Or your inspiration, maybe.
Yes.
Well, yeah, it wasn't, like I said before, it wasn't intentional at first, and it's primarily because in the way that other people have this real need for security that I've noticed. I mean, people really feel like they need to have, a place where they live and a certain network of people, and all of these things are very, these are needs that people have, and I'm the opposite. Like, I hate being in four walls. I hate being in that situation. So I'm, so for me, like, I guess my home is the road, and that's where I feel the most comfortable. And that's, what I mean is, like, actually just continuously moving on and never having any particular place. And that's what it is for me. That's why I keep doing it.
Yes, thank you, Amy. I think we, is this for Amy as well?
It is.
Oh, okay.
It's hard.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi. I was wondering, to that, how has your wandering changed throughout the years? You mentioned before that in your piece it was obviously like in America on the open roads, and now you're over in Ireland. And are you doing the same thing in Ireland? Are you doing a different thing in Ireland? How has it changed throughout the years?
Well, it's more changed. It changes depending on where I go, because obviously in the States, it's very much, cars, motels. I have friends who are train hobos, and they do train traveling, jumping trains and stuff, because in the States we don't really have the public transportation that all of Europe has, and most of Asia and a lot of other places. So whenever I go somewhere else, and I was out of the country for many, many years now, I'll do the same kind of traveling, but via public transport, and I think that's the biggest difference for me, especially since I'm a real, I have a real love of cars, so that's been hard to adapt to. But that's the biggest difference, I think. as far as how things have changed. And especially like when I went back to the States, actually, one of the things I noticed was that things had gotten so expensive that it would be very, very difficult to live like that there now, you know, the way that I started to back when it began, because that was quite a few years ago. I mean, motels aren't like the $30 a night or $20 a night they used to be. You know, most of the places are too expensive to stop over even for a night for people who are doing this, you know, or used to do this because I mean, we did this kind of thing for a living, a lot of us, you know, you go from town to town, you pick up work in each place or, you know, something like that. But that's not really, not as easy, not these days.
Indeed, thank you, Amy. And I want to get a question to Katya, but just a quick question to you, Amy. Have you heard of Tales from a Female Nomad? The book?
No.
Check it out. You'll find a kindred spirit there. Unfortunately, I can't remember the author's name, but she left her traditional life at 49, and she's now in her 60s, probably late 60s, and she's been, you know, traveling the world from 1 week, one place, up to 2 weeks, for 2 years, another place, from living in a hut in the Amazon to a prince's palace. So it's pretty inspirational. So I'm sure your journey and story is equally as not only entertaining but inspiration. So thank you for sharing your journey with us. And hello to Dublin, to everybody over there. But I want to ask Katya and then any of the other artists. You wear a lot of hats. So speaking to the vastness of one's self and their expression and passions, how do you manage that, or how do you give some tips or inspiration to people?
I don't sleep very much.
Say that again.
I don't sleep very much. Yeah. For starters, no, I do like to sleep, but I mean, I started out like acting was always kind of the main thing that I wanted to do, but at the same time, even since I was little, I would always kind of write my own stories for myself to perform in, or I was a dancer for a bit, and I would like. I always knew that I wanted to really be part of filmmaking in a much broader sense than only being on screen. And so for me, I don't know, I think I personally have kind of two parts of my personality where I can be very artistic but also very organized and kind of type A, which goes really well with someone who wants to produce and kind of has to keep all those managerial things together. And I mean, for anyone else who is thinking about wearing multiple hats versus just honing in on one craft, I think it depends. Like, my brother is a dancer, and I think for dancers, like, it is an art that you guys have to train your body so much, and I mean, with choreographing you kind of learn that, but you have to first know your body, know your technique. And I think, but for something like film, there's so many different parts and components to it that knowing how to do different things just really opens up opportunities. And having gone from someone who was mainly just acting to now writing, producing, directing, set design sometimes, it really just has given me so many other cool opportunities and the chance to work with some amazing people that I never would have been able to even get in contact with if I had only been acting or only been screenwriting. So I would really encourage it. I know it doesn't work for everyone, but if you kind of like dipping your toes in a lot of different, is that the right expression? If you I don't know, if you like doing a lot of different things, it really is cool.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I think that's one of the main things that International Women Artists Salon is here for, is for women creatives to explore their passions and share resources and find collaborators and inspiration from other women artists, and help each other. So we thank you for sharing your works tonight, your inspiration. Do you have anything else?
Oh, I just wanted to add to that. I think that it's important as dancers that we train our bodies and we follow this. I don't know. I don't think that there is one path as a dancer, and I think that it's hugely important to have your foot in all these different doors, because I think that it informs your work. I don't think that's necessarily just for dancers. It's so great that this exists, and I feel so fortunate that I'm a part of it tonight, because I feel like it just informs your work, and I feel like artists are really special, and I feel really lucky that I'm one of them, and I think that when artists get all together in one room, that really amazing things happen. So thank you.
Absolutely.
How many? That's all.
Can I piggyback off of that? I think what you just said is so important. Like, for example, when I wrote Vandal, I wrote the film because I was surrounded by a lot of friends who were painters, and this movie would never have happened if I hadn't kind of dipped my toes into this art painting world. And I'm working on a music project right now that is video but with dancers, and so I think it's so cool and like be cross-disciplinary. Yeah. So.
Absolutely. Anybody else in the audience have a question? Back here. How about just a quick show of hands? How many are consider themselves artists or creatives? Everybody, come on, everybody put up their hand, right? I was waiting for that, yes.
Hi, thank you for all your performance, it was great. I just had a question for Katya. So in your film, so it's this young artist who's passionate and who's facing this brutal art world. Has this been your experience also in New York City? And if so, just if you can talk a little bit about that.
I think like a bit yes and no. I think my main idea behind Vandal was that I wanted to tell the story of someone who, in this case, is a painter, but I really think like she could have been a musician, she could have been a fashion designer, and just how nowadays, like in a lot of different industries, there's someone at the top who could really give you the green light at anything, say like, okay, yep, that song's going to be on the radio, that movie is going to get this distribution, this person is going to get this role, and like if they are on your side, your career can just take a huge turn for the good. And at the same time, that same person could just for any reason not connect to your work, and that would, in a sense, close a ton of doors for you. And so I just wanted to tell the story of a person who maybe has to find a different way to go around that and has to open up the doors for herself. And I think that any artist goes through this, consistently, and you're always going to feel like a door is shutting on a daily basis until finally one opens or a window opens, and like it's not what you thought it would be, but it ends up being amazing. And so I mean I've definitely been through that, and I've also been through the opposite, where you have these moments where like, oh right, this is why I do this. This is why I like consistently I'm like, oh come on. But I think that it's something that it's pretty universal when you kind of go through this path of inconsistent career choice, but you have to do it.
Definitely. Never give up.
Anybody else? And I just wanted to add to that again, encouraging everybody, as these amazing women have mentioned, that just go after your passion, no matter what it is, if it's in the arts or if it's in other industry. I know there's an artist out here who's also a scientist and mixes science with art, and so there's a lot of interdisciplinary action opportunities out there to explore our passions. So the other show is coming up, so come on in. We're going to end tonight, but thank you so much for being here, and please stay, patron the bar, and enjoy the artists.